structure that was built to carry freight trains through New York City back in the 1930s. It's 1.5 miles long, and there are 7 acres up here. And when the train stopped running back in 1980, this incredible wild landscape seeded itself in the gravel ballast of the High Line. My name is Joshua David. I'm one of the 2 co-founders of Friends of the High Line. And about 7 years ago, when the High Line was under threat of demolition, Robert Hammond and I joined together to form Friends of the High Line.
I think for me, the most inspiring part of it has been Joshua, David, and Robert Hammond. They are the kind of people that I think inspire and motivate other people to join the army behind a good idea. I think if I was able to offer anything to Joshua and Robert early on, it was having someone say to them, hey, you're not crazy, you know, this can be done.
We started with the idea of volunteering on a more manageable level. I think we both called it stuffing envelopes. And then when we realized there was nobody that you could stuff envelopes for, we realized that either somebody was going to create that organization or this was going to be torn down.
Do you feel like you and Robert have gotten this liberal arts education while making
It's been an incredible education. Neither of us had any kind of knowledge about any of the things that
you guys just didn't want it to be torn down.
We didn't want it to be torn down, and also it seemed like an amazing opportunity to build something great. I mean, if you just look down there, it's like this. We're in this middle of this 13-block straightaway that's just amazing. It's only 3 stories up, but it's amazing the difference of experience that you have from down on the street. You really feel that you're removed from the city, and yet at the same time you're still physically connected to the city. The High Line goes through buildings. Where else could you have an experience like that? It's completely unique to the High Line.
For perspective, these are 2 guys who were young men living and working in New York. They had full careers. And they embarked on this journey motivated by the idea that this was something that would be good for their community.
Look at that, all these pipes from the street. It's really... I think in a general sense, thinking conventionally was a real obstacle to us. It was really easy for people in the neighborhood to say, oh, you can't build a park on an elevated structure. We were accused very often at the beginning of being dreamers, and people would throw that at us as that it was an insult. We were naive dreamers.
It's absolutely inevitable. It's unavoidable that in the beginning it feels half-baked.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or that it feels like this is ludicrous, because I think it's good for people to hear that to get anything done, you are going to have to cross through a zone in which everyone tells you, and probably you tell yourself, that it's not a well-thought-through idea.
Right. I think that's very true.
I think what captivated people's imagination was the design competition.
That first one in 2003.
Yeah.
That was an amazing competition. There was the swimming pool.
The entire thing as a
swimming pool. Swimming pool was a really,
that was hysterical.
Really captivating idea.
There was one where there was a roller coaster.
That was my personal favorite. I was a big roller coaster fan. Then, as we entered a more realistic phase, you had this base of creative visioning that continued to inspire people. So even when you were talking about how do you make this a real park, you had all of this.
Yeah, all of a sudden it was sort of accepted that something great was going to go. Yeah, and that was really a great moment.
I think one of the most beautiful things about this whole story is how clearly it demonstrates that young people with motivation and conviction can overcome lack of experience, the skepticism of others, bureaucracy at the largest levels, and prevail. Sometimes it's hard to believe that you've reached the point where you're the people who can do this, but we are, you know what I mean? And it's one of the first things I've been involved in that was done at this scale that I felt like my peers did it. People my own age pulled this off, and it's just incredibly cool.